Will I get an answer from all the Christians about this? Doubt it.
Buddy, I gave you an answer a year ago. I can only conclude that you're a psyop.
Zechariah, 10 people from all languages and nations will grab a hold of their tassel and say, "We heard God is with you." So now, who do you think they're talking about when they say the people that claim they're Jews but not, and they will bow down to you in the end times? Revelation is pure quote mining. Okay? Will I get an answer from all the Christians about this? Doubt it.
Which is
let me ask you one verse, okay? And by the way, your point about Hezekiah being the original context of Isaiah 53, that's actually new. I haven't heard that before, but I searched it, and some people do believe that, and I think there could be some truth to it. I've heard that I've heard a lot of interpretations that it's referring to the Jews, like all of the Jews and their suffering. But I think the idea that it's Hezekiah is a stronger argument that they took that messianic archetype and applied it to Jesus.
Yeah, that's what they did.
That's interesting. But so speaking of verses, I want you to explain this verse to me because this seems just so clear cut. What do you think about this one here? Zechariah 8:23. This is what the Lord Almighty says. In those days, 10 people from all languages and all Goyim, all the nations, will take firm hold of one Jew by the hem of his robe and say, "Let us go with you, because we have heard that God is with you."
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic prophecy, is that? And I can explain that if you've got a minute. God is with
your
you.
take on this.
God is with you. In the Hebrew,
my doorbell has just gone, gentlemen. Sorry, just
okay.
But carry
Mossad,
on
don't
without
answer
me. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's the post. It's the post time now. He's usually here.
Oh yeah.
It gets complicated, but okay, let's go back.
Complicated. It looks pretty straightforward. It says all.
No. Well, you asked me for an explanation. I'll give it to you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. Genesis 15, Abraham is promised the land. Right? According to Genesis
Promised
15,
land, yes.
He's given a covenant. He's promised the land. He said, this land is going to be yours. And it enumerates, at the end of that chapter of Genesis 15, it enumerates 10 Canaanite nations that were already in the land. 10 nations. It names them by name. 10 nations. Now you go to Zechariah, right? And you get 10 people grabbing the hold of one skirt of one Jew whose name is God is with us, which is Emmanuel, which is the same name that was given to Hezekiah in Zechariah, in Isaiah 9. He was called Emmanuel.
Hold on. How are you getting to Hezekiah? It says, hold on. How did you get there, though? I missed the step.
The one Jew who they grabbed the skirts of is Jesus. And the 10 men are 10 men from the nations that were living in the land when Abraham was promised that land. So what it's saying there is there's going to come a time when these nations that lived in this land, right, when Abraham was promised it, will grab hold of the skirts of one Jew, i.e. Jesus. We have heard that God is with you. Emmanuel. So this is a prophecy about Jesus. It's not a prophecy about the rabbis. It's not a prophecy about the Jewish nation. It's not a prophecy about anything but about Jesus. And you can turn it into a prophecy, that they will turn it into a prophecy about them and say, yeah, we're going to rule the world, and it's about our nation.
This is where they get their 20, in the Talmud, they take this verse and say that they're going to have 2,800 servants in the end time.
Guys, I got.
So I told you over a year ago what that verse meant, and I told you a lot of other things. So you've either forgotten, which I doubt, because I don't think you're dumb, or you're running a psyop, and you're doing a bait and switch, because your real enemy is not the Jews, it's the Christians, who you want to portray as dumb and cucked. At the time, you acknowledged that I knew what I was talking about, but you never came back, and you've never referenced it. So that tells me that you're dishonest, and you're running a psyop. Do you see it now, Adam? Those 10 nations, or 10 men from 10 nations, those are now the Abraham Accords. And we're told in the book of Revelation that the 10 kings will give their power to the great harlot for 1 hour, and then they will turn on her and they will burn her with fire.
Hey, Paul, I'll give it to you. Of all the Christians I've talked to, you certainly know a lot and have done a lot of research. I'll give you that. Where is that? Christ cut bingo. That's funny. Revelation 3:9, Satan. Here we go. I did a whole show on this recently, but so Revelation 3:9, the synagogue of Satan who claim to be Jews, though they are not, but are liars. So it's not Jews. People claiming that they're Jews, but they're not. Like, I don't know, from the Jewish perspective, that would be Christians. John was a Jew.
The first interpretation that Adam Green gives us, for those who say that they are Jews, from the Jewish perspective, he says that means Christians, those who say they are Jews, but they're really Christians. And then Adam adds that John was actually a Jew. Well, according to Adam Green, those who say they are Jews are Christians LARPing as Jews, Jewish pretenders. Then he adds that John was a Jew. Are we supposed to draw the conclusion that John the Jew was mad at Christians, angry at Christians for pretending to be Jews? That is completely absurd. John was a Christian as well as being a Jew. It is possible to be both, you know. Not only that, but the claim to Jewishness is a claim to having Abraham as father. And that is the claim that the Jews made in John chapter 8.
I know that ye are Abraham's seed, but ye seek to kill me, because my word hath no place in you. I speak that which I have seen with my father, and ye do that which ye have seen with your father. If ye were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham. But now ye seek to kill me, a man that has told you the truth.
Only those who do the works of Abraham can claim descent from Abraham. The works of Abraham were works of faith, and they were counted as righteousness. So those who say that they are Jews and are not are those who claim descent from Abraham, descent after the flesh. But Jesus is saying that's not enough. You have to act like Abraham. He furthermore says that they are the synagogue of Satan, which goes right back to Gnosticism and the problems that were facing the first century church and that are facing the church right now.
The other way that interpretation is that it's saying that you're not a real Jew unless you believe in Jesus. That's how Jewish it is. And that's how non-anti-Semitic is. They're just one group of Jews saying to another group of Jews, you're not Jewing right. That's anti-Semitic?
Not Jewing right. Ha ha. You're funny, Adam. That's funny. That's a good one. Not Jewing right. Yeah, but it's funny, but it's absolute nonsense. Paul, the Apostle Paul, calls them false brethren in 2 Corinthians 11, verses 13 to 15.
For such men are false apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It is not surprising, then, if his servants masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their actions.
So who, then, is this synagogue of Satan that say they are Jews? They are now the ones we call Gnostic or Theosophists, and they're all related to Jewish Kabbalists. They are the false Jews. They see Lucifer as the illuminator. They are enemies of the gospel, like Simon Magus was in the book of Acts. And why are you using a Gnostic gospel like the Gospel of Judas? Why do you use Nag Hammadi literature? You do know that research on that is all funded by the Rockefellers. And why do you have people like the Gnostic informant as a guest? I mean, they believe that the God of the Old Testament is the devil himself. If you want to know what Revelation 3 verse 9 is about, I suggest you go and look at my commentary. I'll place a link below. Here's a section on, let me have a look, page 42. Yeah, here it is. You were quoted from Revelation 3 verse 9. Here's Smyrna, the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews. Oh, and as an aside, as a tangent, it might be interesting to note that the false Messiah, Zabbatai Zevi, who's has a lot to do with what's happening right now. That chappie, his father was an agent for the East India Company in Smyrna. In Smyrna. Now, isn't that coincidence? Isn't that interesting? Adam, you are the third spoke in the wheel. Zionists like Jordan Peterson is a Jungian Gnostic, and the woke right like Candace Owens and Russell Brand are false Christians who recently converted or got baptized, and the woke right is running the Christ as King operation. These are two sides of the Hegelian dialectic. The Gnostic-theosophists aim to synthesize the opposites. You point out that Christ is King and that it's a psyop, and you are correct. But I really don't care. In this, I follow the Apostle Paul.
It is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. The latter do so in love, knowing that I am appointed for the defense of the gospel. The former, however, preach Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing that they can add to the distress of my chains. What then is the issue? Just this, that in every way, whether by false motives or true, Christ is preached. And in this I rejoice. Yes, and I will continue to rejoice.
And I rejoice as well, and I will continue to rejoice, because Christ is preached. No matter what the motive is, he's preached. And why has the Christ figure riding the white horse got your face? I thought you were a Viking. Retarded. So, Adam, if Christ is not your king, who is your king then? Who do you work for? Is it this guy here? Or is it perhaps this guy? So which king do you serve, Adam? Why don't you tell your listeners how the intelligence services are run by the occultists? Tell them how the empire promoted British Israelitism and Zionism. Tell them how the bloodlines are Gnostic Kabbalists. Tell them why the transhumanist technocrats need to destroy Christianity. Your bait is Judaism, and then you switch to Christianity. But be careful, because blaspheming and leading people astray comes at a cost. The only people you will convince with your wresting and twisting of Scripture and your fallacies are the weak-minded. But remember the words and the warning of the Lord Jesus Christ. But whoso shall cause one of these little ones who believe in me to fall, it were better for him that a millstone were hung around his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Methinks that your longboat has been hauled below the waterline.
Paul, I'll give it to you. Of all the Christians I've talked to, you certainly know a lot and have done a lot of research. I'll give you that.